When you look at these different accounting frameworks, they have a wide set of greenhouse gas accounting systems that determine the carbon intensity of the fuels, as well as different requirements. And carbon intensity is sort of the currency of sustainable aviation fuel. Carbon intensity represents the grams of carbon dioxide per megajoule of fuel. And so a kilogram of jet fuel has about 43 or 44 megajoules. Typical petroleum jet fuel has about 89 grams of carbon dioxide equivalent per megajoule. Now, some of the combustion of jet fuel is N2O and methane, but it's a very small part. That's why these IPCC factors matter. But it matters much more because nitrous oxide is a very strong greenhouse gas. And one of the largest alternative fuels in the world is ethanol, and it's a potential feedstock for ethanol to jet. And N2O emissions from farming are an important part of the life cycle. So the global warming potential affects the greenhouse gas calculation somewhat, and you can see that they're different amongst all of these programs. There's also upstream life cycle data, which we'll talk a little bit more about later, and there's various models that you can use to calculate effectively the scope 3 emissions that correspond to your fuels. And there's also different analysis years, different LCA methods, which we'll talk about. And there's also this concept of land use conversion. Which modeling system do you use to calculate land use conversion? Now, it seems to be that there's a lot of options here. And if you look at the first 4 columns, actually, or even 5, these all have some form of mandate from a government agency. And the government agency decides on the choices here. Generally as part of a rulemaking process. So the RFS is a federal law. It's an act of Congress that's implemented by the EPA. They have rulemaking and comment periods, and all of the feedback they get effectively filters into their final choices on these analysis methods. Same occurs with the California LCFS and these other entities. And finally, there's different methods of actually knowing when do you know you actually have some SAF. So let's talk about that real quickly, right? So under the RFS, there's very specific pathways that are pre-approved. So if you're taking soybean oil to make renewable diesel, that qualifies for a D4 RIN. If you have an alternate process, you have to petition the EPA. In California, you have a calculator which you use to calculate your greenhouse gas emissions. In CORSIA, you have some custom calculators with some guidance documents, and with the Inflation Reduction Act, it's to be determined. And with Scope 1, 2, 3, it's a whole constellation of different reporting tools that companies typically use.